around and disregard it. Sweep you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started, it's the hardest. Talk around, don't disregard it. Sweep you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. Yeah,
get your boots ready. We're about to go on a trip where we wrestle, nobody settling or calling it quits. You're here for the grit, betcha this stuff is amazing. You're stumbling, welcome to the bump in the apron. Step into it, the hardest part of the ring. Here to bring fun, yeah, and this art he is king. It's the best thing, making sure you don't tap out. Don't go soft with the hardest podcast out. And it's not just another one, it's clear. Off the rest, in this content, none contest. Take the nonsense off the steps. You know it's nothing but pure gems when it's coming off the chest. Get it? Now it's time to sit and relax. Get your mind blown away, ain't no skipping this track. Have you paying more attention, no listening gap. Get everything I ever wanted, no giving it back.
Ooh. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I am your host, the hardest part of the ring, also known as Kyle. And if you're listening on audio, you're listening on Spotify, if you're just listening to my sweet, velvety, buttery voice in your ears, you're probably like, well, gee whiz, just another episode of the Apron Bump Podcast with my pal, the hardest part of the ring. And I'm glad to be there with you in your car or your sex dungeon or wherever you listen to me. And I appreciate you for listening. If you're checking this out on YouTube, youtube.com backslash apron bump. Give the video a like, a subscribe while you're at it. If you're on YouTube, you're probably like, gee, hardest part of the ring. What the fuck is wrong with your face? Yeah, I'm going to say it was a lot worse the past few days. I'm recording this on a Monday afternoon, and had a little debacle on Saturday night. Just a little fun fact about the hardest part of the ring. I have very bad gag reflex. Just gonna let that marinate for a second. I have terrible gag reflex. My dentist gets mad at me because I can't control my tongue. I'm gagging on everything that they put in my mouth. I just terrible. It's thank goodness I'm a straight man because man, I would be a single person forever if not. But the reason I bring this up is this becomes an issue when I vomit. Right now, I don't vomit very often, right? But when I do, it's torturous. It's very violent sounding. I'm sure it feels the same as any of you vomiting, but man, does it just sound like I'm getting murdered when it happens. And the reason for this is because I have to strain very hard because of the gag reflex. And due to this, every fucking time I vomit, all of the fucking blood vessels in my face burst and I turn into just a purpley, blotchy asshole. Okay, so that's why right now it just looks like I have two black eyes, but the past couple days it was like splotchy all over. I had spots all over me. It's still kind of, I don't know how well you can see it, but yeah, just wanted to lay that out front. The softest part of the ring is not abusing me. She did not punch me in both eyes. I've tried to get her into kickboxing, and believe me, she would not leave a black eye. But yeah, Saturday night, the wife was out of town. Let me just have myself a bachelor night, watch some NXT, maybe drink a few Modelo's. Man, hopped on Xbox, played some PGA golf with some of my buddies. Did a little drinking, did a little just a little loosey-goosey time. And apparently Daddy can't hang anymore because like 6 or 7 beers is all it takes apparently for it to just come back up. And here's the kicker. Here's just the icing on the cake. So I've been eating better recently. I always eat like decently, but I'm trying to not do the late night bullshit now. So on Saturday night, little topsy-turvy, little upside anal, had a couple of brewskis. Did not order McDonald's or whatever the fuck, no Taco Bell. I had a nice meal prep in the fridge, had some grilled chicken, had some broccoli, had some rice. About an hour later is when I puked. And apparently that's not enough time for your food to digest. So broccoli florets came shooting out my gullet in the same exact form that they went in there. And I don't know if you've ever vomited up broccoli florets, the leafy greens coming out of you. It is just a disgusting, repulsive time. Now, is there anything worse than puking up broccoli and chicken and rice and looking at it in the toilet and it being in the exact same form that you ate it in? Is there anything worse than that? My answer is yes. WWF In Your House 6. Just kidding. This is actually a very good show. Actually, a really damn good show. Actually, In Your House 6. I'm just gonna segue out of the previous conversation. Does this have a title, In Your House 6? You know how they all have kind of just like the retroactively they just like add the title after it. Let me do a little Google ski here. It's just not called anything. I guess it's just a self-titled Rage in the Cage. Okay. In Your House 6. Rage in the Cage. That's fun. We're having fun. But yes. Good show, like I said. It's In Your House, and we're leading up to WrestleMania, but I think they set the tone for that show very well with this. And with 1996, early 96, we talk about this a little bit in the podcast, but it's really a crapshoot. It's really, there's just, man, Attitude Era is coming, but on the way there, it is just a lot of horse manure. But this show was not one of those things, because for God's sakes, we got Shawn Michaels versus Owen Hart. Great googly moogly. What a combo of gentlemen wrestling each other. I wish they would have had more matches together, honestly. Wish they would have had a full-on program, to be honest. But pretty good match here In Your House 6. A dream match of sorts. It's not a match that I was aware that ever happened. And I wish I could say everything on this show was good, but we also have a crybaby match. Crybaby match, and we'll get into what exactly that entails when we get to the episode here. What else? Well, what else happens on this show? We got Yokozuna cutting a promo for the first time. We got a steel cage match, main event, hence the name of the show. And gee whiz, man, I might as well change the name of this podcast to Jim Cornette's drive through the apron bump, because god damn it, am I not talking about Jim Cornette every single week, it seems like. I just covered him debuting in Ring of Honor. I just covered him debuting in TNA. And now, I mean, he's been in WWF, but man, he is very prevalent throughout the show. I feel like I'm just nonstop talking about Jim Cornette. But that's the beauty of this podcast. We get to see characters and all of their incarnations throughout the years. Get to see the evolution of people. Get to see the evolution of the product in general. And I think that's what makes this show unique amongst all the other retro wrestling podcasts. But speaking of unique elements of this podcast, make sure to stay tuned for the end, where we will grade this show and score it and take a look at the updated standings for... yeah, I guess I need a name for this, right? We'll come up with a name for it. But it's the battles for supremacy in 1996 amongst the three major North American companies, WWF, WCW, and ECW. We got a whole spreadsheet. We got a scoring system going. We got some running standings going already, and we'll see how this show changes that. So make sure to check out the end of this episode. And if you like the Wrestling Wars of the 90s, if you like the Monday Night Wars, you like the Attitude Era, you like WCW, you love the Dungeon of Doom, you love Sandman, you love all that stuff, I suggest you go to apronbump.com and you can select any promotion. You can go up to the episodes tab at the top and filter down to any promotion, any era of wrestling that you would like to hear me recap. And this includes the Wrestling Wars of the 90s. And you can select that, and it'll bring you to all of the WWF, WCW, and ECW events that I have recapped thus far, all in chronological-ish order. And yeah, it's been a good time. It's been a good time. We're about to enter a period where there's going to be a lot of flux, a lot of flip-flopping, a lot of debuts, a lot of people leaving, a lot of world orders being started. So it's a good time to hop onto that and make sure you catch up based on what I've recapped so far. So do that. And you know what else you should do? You should check out the Young Kings Wrestling Podcast because they are my guests on today's show. Had a great time with Riq and TC covering In Your House 6. Great dudes. Awesome podcast. They cover wrestling, obviously. They do a lot of the current stuff, you know, the major bullet points. So they talk about some retro stuff too. They do like a this day in history type of deal. They do brackets. They do lists. They do it all. They had a lot of unique stuff from Young Kings Wrestling. So go check them out. You can check them out wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as YouTube. YKWrestling.com for everything you need from those guys. And I'll put all of their info, all the socials and all that in the description as well. Go check them out. With that, I think we should get right to it, shall we? WWF In Your House 6, Rage in the Cage, with myself and Riq and TC from the Young Kings Wrestling Podcast. So what's your guys' problem with Jim Cornette? To start this off.
I don't have no beef with Jim Cornette. I don't have beef with Jim Cornette. I don't listen to him. I don't mind him though. Like how other wrestling fans always bring up Jim Cornette and just shit on him. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like he's an old man. He's born in what, the 50s? Like he's gonna have opinions like that. So like you just gotta let that shit slide sometimes. But
yeah.
I mean, you a little too heavy on the Jim Cornette, man. Like I didn't even know he was that prevalent in the WWF at that time. Like,
right.
Yeah. I mean, I guess an hour and 50 of the show was, and he was probably on screen for like what, at least an hour of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry.
He was in like 3 straight segments. I don't cooked Yokozuna for whatever reason. Like,
for no
what was that about?
For no reason.
And that went on for a long ass time. But I'm just like, I don't care for Cornette like that. He's fine in moderation, but it's like
moderation. That's
you know when you do too much, it becomes a problem. Like you know, some people over there like TK, you know, you do a little too much of something, it becomes a problem real fast. This was an example of that. Like I could take 1 segment of Jim Cornette. Once you pass that quota, you're doing a little too much.
Like 3 in a row. It was like 3 or 4 in a row.
He was the Paul Heyman of the new generation, you know?
Oh, God.
Can't hate him.
That's where we're
He has a lot of clients. He's in high demand. Gotta respect the hustle.
That motherfucker.
Cannot accuse him of not taking this seriously.
No, not at all. So you guys were able to check out the show?
Yeah, I watched it last night. I was at work, did some overtime, so let me shoot this up after SmackDown.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was long enough to get me through my overtime too. So like clocked out right when it was over. I was like, that's nice.
Not too long though. Me and Riq were talking. It was sub 2 hours. Yeah.
That works.
Rare.
Were you guys
compared to the Rumble? Goddamn.
Whew. Oh man. WrestleManias even. I mean, even though this they're normal TV shows now. Like Raw is like twice as long as the show. So
exactly.
But were you guys watching in this era? Because I know you guys watch a lot of old stuff. Were you watching like around this time?
I wasn't. Nah.
Yeah, this was like
I was too young, man.
Maybe a year and a half before I got really.
I was 3 years old when this event took place. So yeah.
Okay. So we're on the same age.
Kind of before my time. Yeah.
But I guess the In Your House concept, it was like obviously a shorter show, but they also charged less for it. What did you guys think about that concept of like a lesser pay-per-view, but still a pay-per-view?
It was better than I thought it was going to be. Like I never, like outside of like the big WrestleManias and Rumbles, I never really watched any special events from around this era. So I was like, yo, this is a decent show. HBK and Owen was solid. That's probably my match of the night.
Yeah,
I did. Who this dumpster dude? Never heard of him. Never heard of him.
You're not familiar with the Duke?
Nah,
bro.
He was over though. I was like, yo, crowd is fucking with this.
Insanely.
All the crazy like occupational gimmicks, they loved that shit back then anyway. So I'm not even shocked that he was over.
Repo Man.
Repo Man was fire. I don't care.
Could have been a faction. Just throw all of them together.
Facts.
Yeah. But yeah, man. I mean, I would agree. The show overall was pretty solid, especially like early '96. It's kind of a crapshoot. Like you get a lot of garbage, pun to pun. But but this show, even though there was a literal garbage man on it, it was probably the least garbage show I've seen in this era so far. That being said, the opening match, we got a crybaby match. It's good, right? It's good, right?
Yo, Razor and Kid were just like high as fuck one day. They was like on the road traveling, and they was like, "Hey yo, what do we do this?
Oh, you think it was their
diaper after the? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's some shit. Or it was like a rib. Like Kid did some shit, and they just had to rib him, put a diaper on him,
Bro, see,
cover him in baby
This
powder.
is why we say all the time. Me and him always in sync. I literally have it written down as I watch the match. The drugs was drugging in this match.
So
because
you don't think that was baby powder in that little container?
Probably not.
If they could have literally the first thing I thought of was like, yo, baby powder has a very distinct taste. Like if it's the scented one, so like that's probably uncomfortable. So I wonder what that was, flour or something else. Never know in 1996.
I don't know.
When it comes to wrestlers, they were doing a whole bunch of shit.
Do you often taste baby powder?
When I was a kid,
it was
you
good,
get
though.
it in you get it in your.
And you remember the taste from back then, huh?
Oh, that
that's
taste
amazing.
is distinct, bro. Like, it's certain tastes that are just vivid. You never forget them.
Right.
Like, you think about it, and it's like your brain just. Baby powder, scented baby powder is one of those. I used to do LeBron James, and I get powder all over the place, man. Just that smell is just take up the whole room.
You know what's always going to be weird to me is seeing Sean Waltman as 1-2-3 Kid, clean face, not a single facial hair.
I never knew Kid was a heel, bro.
Yeah. And then he had that expression on his face like Napoleon Dynamite, which was killing me the whole match.
He looks like a completely different person without facial hair.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
And yeah, like you, I didn't really know he had a heel run either. I guess it was pretty short because I don't know when he goes to WCW. I don't think it's too far
not
from
too
this
long
point.
after.
So obviously, is it around the time, I guess, where
It's
Razor
Googleable.
and Diesel hop over? It is Googleable. It is Googleable. But yeah, they were trying something. He's in the $1 million corporation at this point. That's why Ted DiBiase is with him. That faction's kind of just, it's not even really a thing. Like King Kong Bundy was in it, and then he left, and they had like Nikolai Volkov for somebody steal. Like it's just a terrible faction.
Just doing shit. Like,
they really are. That's the new generation for you.
I'm wondering what Ted did to be subjected to this shit because who did he piss off? Because he just looked so out of place in all of this.
He fighting for his client, man. He doesn't
want to February.
Yeah, February.
Yeah. So he's gone by like May. Then they said he went to rehab. That's what Wikipedia says. I don't trust Wikipedia all the time.
You don't think it's from the embarrassment of losing this match? I mean, it's high stakes. It's high stakes, the crybaby match.
Well, it says his final match was in May, and then he went to rehab, and then he showed up in WCW in September.
I see. But on the way there, maybe one of the reasons he had to go to rehab was his crybaby match and the stipulation, which I don't know if we've ever seen another one, surprisingly, after this. But the loser has to put on a diaper and suck on a baby bottle because. Now
I want to know what was in that bottle. That was clear. That wasn't milk.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, that's not milk. So what's going on here?
That was an odd choice. It just, I'm squirting water on you. Huh? Aren't you embarrassed? Like, it was like not that different than like a Gatorade bottle. It was just a big stupid. I don't know.
That's probably a rib between the two of them. Being like, yo, so if you lose this match, you get vodka on your face. But that shit sting real quick.
And it just sent Kid into a spiral and then made him go to rehab. Look, man. Yeah, I mean, it's not far-fetched. I'm with that. But I mean, Kid comes out, first of all, he has a stroller. He's coming out as entrance, and there's a razor bear in the stroller. A razor bear, everybody. It's a bear with a Razor Ramon shirt, I guess. I don't know if that was... did you guys ever own a Razor Bear back in the day?
No.
I didn't know Razor Ramon existed until like 2000.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's never too late. So Kid's really hyping it up here, I guess, as much as he can. Ted DiBiase, of course, has the baby powder along with him. And then the match gets underway. There's some wrestling here somewhere. Pretty solid. I mean, the guys have good chemistry, obviously. They're really good friends. You got Kid. I mean, Kid was just a diamond in the rough in this era with all the occupational bullshit going on. Like, Kid was like way ahead of his time with all like the martial arts kicks and all that stuff, the frog splash from the top rope, all the high flying stuff. They even they do a little callback in this match too, obviously, because 1, 2, 3 Kid started by upsetting Razor Ramon on Raw, and they did a kind of similar move where Kid came off the top with like a moonsault crossbody type thing, but did not get the 1, 2, 3 this time. And then Razor fights back, hits a sack of shit slam from the second rope, and then Kid, as Ted DiBiase's like distracting the ref, Kid puts some powder, some of that white powder in his hands, and is going to throw it in Razor's face, but that damn Razor Ramon kicks it out of his hands into the face of Kid, hits him with the razor's edge. 1, 2, pulls him up. He said, no, I'm going to hit him one more again. One more razor's edge. Gets the win. And, oh, man. I don't know. I mean, I guess you guys, do you guys have kids?
I don't.
Or have you changed the diaper? If not.
Yeah, it was pretty sufficient with it.
Okay, so you're saying that his form was good here because it was a little sus, because he literally just takes Kid's
Velcro
legs.
Was kind of strange, but
a little too easy. Yeah. But I guess because he literally just, you hear it in concept, the stipulation. It's like, oh, it's kind of silly, but in execution, it's even worse because he takes Kid's ankles and just puts it behind his head, puts the powder all over his chest and face and asshole. And puts on
put the powder
diaper
on after the fact. That wasn't right. But.
That's right. That's where he messed up. Now Kid's just gonna have all sorts of diaper rash. I mean, really
that's
consider
in
it.
proper form.
It is.
Yeah.
And then Kid like slowly gets up after Razor leaves, and I love the facials. He like slowly realizes that he has a diaper on, rips it off, smashes the stroller, and it's a good stuff, right? Good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's the way to kick the show off.
Razor was over too, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Like everyone in that group had great chemistry, so they wasn't gonna have a bad match.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the click. This show is click heavy. That's for damn sure.
Yep.
It's straight up click and BSK. That's all this show was.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, those are some of the best guys in the company at this point, so can't really hate him too much for that. But yeah, any other thoughts on this barn burner of an opener?
Nah, it was solid.
Should they bring the stipulation back?
Way to open the show. No, please don't. Please don't.
Have
No, I'm good off that. There was a time where they could have, like, during the pandemic when they was in the PC and they was just trying anything. They could have got away with that then.
Right.
Not with no live crowds. Don't do this.
The chances of this match coming back are an absolute 0 after this past July.
Yeah.
This past July. What happened this past July?
The guy who booked this match retired.
Oh, I see. I'm with you. You don't think Triple H is all about this? Well,
please don't.
Speaking of which,
if he is, we're gonna have some stuff to say.
Oh, we're gonna have some conversations, especially when people act like, oh, it's the most amazing thing ever. We're really gonna have some conversations.
Only time will tell. Only time will tell. Well, we're almost at that man in particular, but before that, we gotta address the hotline
What was
backstage. I don't know. Like you guys, because I'm a similar age. The concept of calling a hotline to get the inside scoop is just beyond me.
Okay,
like having to pay money to call
quick.
it. Please.
Am I the only one that remembers those spoiler hotlines? And you would call like 2 days before SmackDown aired, and they would tell you all the spoilers. Or am I just too fucking old?
I think I've heard about that. I've never personally called one of those, but
They stopped doing them in like 2005-ish.
Right. Well, that was the Twitter back then. You would have to call a number and then you'd have to listen to it. They would have like the Dave Meltzer reports, the who's jumping from what company. They would have all that. You just have to call a number and yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw it.
It served a purpose at one point in time.
I didn't want to.
It did.
No, he didn't.
Never has, never will. But
he's been polluting this planet for what, 60 years?
Oh, he ain't stopping. He ain't stopping. But speaking of polluting the planet, we got Sunny here backstage, along with fucking who is this dude with her? I didn't catch his name.
Ray Rougeau.
Oh,
the
of
Mountie.
Course. Oh, that's the Mountie.
Really?
It was Ray Rougeau. One of the Rougeau brothers was the Mountie. I don't remember which one. I think it was Ray.
This guy's the Mountie in my head now. I don't care if it's true or not.
I would never recognize him outside of costume.
It was his brother. It was his brother.
I don't take your word for it. Okay.
No, he's the Mountie in my head. That's it.
Because I would have never known.
Yeah, well, they're plugging the hotline. Sonny apparently wants to fuck Razor Ramon, and the Mounties wondering about kids' diaper rash. Now, amongst just
several.
As long as you have a crisp $20 bill, she'll at least consider you.
Y'all remember JR was promoting Sonny's OnlyFans just out the blue?
Oh my God.
When was this?
It was like around the pandemic time, like right when the pandemic started.
Yeah.
Man,
I didn't realize how down bad JR was until I saw him actually like promoting one of her posts for it. I'm like, damn.
It was probably unprovoked too, knowing Jim Ross.
Hey.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You gotta shoot your shot. Like you said, he's got to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and something's gonna stick, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you know, I saw Sonny in this segment. I don't know why, but like the first person I saw was Stacy Keibler, because a young Sonny reminded me a lot of Stacy, and I was like, damn. And then I wonder where she been at.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Who's better, young Sonny or young Stacy Keibler?
Stacy.
Oh, Stacy off the legs alone.
You think so? I was always more of a Sonny guy.
I don't think Stacy's racist either. So there's that.
Yeah. You never know. You never know.
Well, I mean, knowing then what we know now, I would definitely have to go with Stacy.
That's fair.
If I was still ignorant to it all and I just saw Sonny back then sure.
Right.
I don't think you can date George Clooney and be racist, so I'm going to lean not racist with Stacy Keibler.
Is that a fact?
Anybody that's not racist is George Clooney.
Yeah. Man, that's a correlation I've never made before, but it's good to know. George Clooney just cleans everybody up.
I've never seen another actor do an ad about Darfur, so he might be right about that.
Okay.
I've never seen an actor beat up a director for mistreating extras on set.
Yeah. But George Clooney never took out the trash. But speaking of which, we got Duke the Dumpster Drosy versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
The original Godfather.
Duke or Triple H?
Triple H.
Okay. Yeah, got his only one singular hoe. Got Elizabeth Hilden.
New ones every week.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's fine. Apparently she's a penthouse model. I'm not too familiar with her. But I guess when you're as rich as Hunter Hearst Helmsley, you can just have whoever you want on your arm, I suppose. But man, this... So the story here, it's not really much of a story other than Duke is smelly and he smells like trash, and Triple H doesn't like that because he's obviously a pinkies up type of dude here. So I feel like this like era of occupational gimmicks, because we're like fresh off the hog pen match too and all that stuff. So this like falls right into Triple H's gimmick here. Just and like the hockey player, whoever. I just don't like you, so I'm gonna beat you up. But yeah, honestly though, Duke Drosy. I didn't hate him in this match. I don't know what you guys think about this.
No, he was decent. Never heard of him, but he was all right.
Yeah, I didn't know this was a thing. That was my thing. I'm like, I had no idea you existed, but apparently, people were feeling it. Like going into it as they're coming out, and he cut that like real ragey, roidy promo before he went out there.
Uh-huh.
I had to double check and make sure that the curtain call hadn't happened yet, because I'm like, is this part of his punishment period? Because I I wasn't thinking this was going to be all right, but it was decent. I can give it that.
Yeah, I mean Duke. So he came around, I guess, like a year or two before this. He actually used to be a lot heavier, not a lot heavier, but decently heavier. He had like the long hair and stuff, and he had looked pretty lean here. I was actually pretty surprised. I've never seen him like this. And they did the whole thing, or I guess on Superstars a few weeks ago, Triple H attacked him with his own trash can, and then cut his hair. So now Duke has like a buzz cut. He looks a lot better actually. Even his gear, I mean, it's the silly trash man shit, but it's actually like decent gear now. He used to just have like some coveralls that he found in a closet somewhere. But yeah, he has a lot of fire. You don't mess with a man's trash can. That's what they say. So he's pretty pissed. He sprints to the ring in his entrance, has a lot of fire, and has some pretty good offense too. Some spine busters, power slams. But when he's getting ready to hit his finisher, the trash compactor, he yells something to the crowd. What does he yell? I don't remember.
I forgot.
It's time to take out the trash.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So, because he's a garbage man, everybody. He's a garbage man. And
That's good.
he goes outside to grab his trash can. He slides it in the ring. The ref is like, hey, you can't take this trash can in the ring. So he throws the lid in the ring, which, by the way, hits Triple H in the head, like on accident. He was just lying down, hits him right in the fucking forehead. And as the ref is trying to take his can away from him, Triple H takes this lid, smashes Duke in the head with it, and gets the 1, 2, 3. So Hunter gets the win here, and yeah, the trash was taken out. Thoughts on this one?
Refs was tripping, man. I don't know how he got away with that one. Oh, which, by the way, I forgot to mention this in the first match. Tim White was not doing his goddamn job because Kid had that sleeper on Ramon, and the protocol, as I recall, is that you're supposed to lift the arm to see if it goes limp. If it goes limp, you call the match off. My man is just crouching down, just like looking at him and having some little silent conversation and waiting for him to start getting back up. Like,
This damn Tim White.
come on, son, do your job. But, no, but this match, I mean, like I said, I would have been more invested if I knew who the hell, what's his name?
Duke the Dumpster Drosy.
Duke the Dumpster. Yeah. I'd be more invested if I knew who the hell he was, but it actually wasn't a bad match.
So I've seen Duke the Dumpster Drosy before in the gimmick battle royal at WrestleMania X7.
Yes.
That's the only time I can remember. And yeah, I got a light bulb in my head now. I had to look that up, but never heard of him.
That was when I first heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that I've seen that he was in that, I remember.
I heard Sheik finally made it to the ring a year ago.
He did.
Yes. Finally, the longest storyline in wrestling. It's
right.
It's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, Duke didn't really do. I mean, what's your ceiling with a trash man character? Because he had like this feud with the Commonwealth or the Connecticut guy Triple H. He had a feud with Jerry the King Lawler. So it's like you can only have feuds with these type of guys. What is he gonna go face Bret Hart or some shit? Like I don't think so. So
they should have had him, Repo Man, and IRS form a stable and call it the Middle Class.
Throw Isaac Yankem in there somewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Yankum's. I think Yankum's come and gone at this point. But
no, I
guess he'll make a
he's
return.
Like early 97 is when they phased that out.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Right.
I was hoping he was still
like right before Kane.
It's still early 96.
Really? I didn't know that's that quick a turnaround. I guess if you have a mask on, it doesn't really matter.
Nah.
But
wait, he was Diesel at one point. I can't remember anything. He was Diesel.
Yes.
Yeah,
he was fake Diesel.
Yeah. So they might have phased out Isaac Yankem already at that point.
Yeah, I think they did.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But we got a pretty legendary moment here after this. So we got Yokozuna cutting his first promo, apparently, in WWF. Because before this, he had just been a big Japanese guy with Mr. Fuji or Jim Cornette always speaking for him. But here he's actually getting a chance to talk because he's broken up from Camp Cornette and all that stuff. So he's on his own now. So he gets his chance to talk. I don't know what you think of his promo here.
I never heard Yokozuna cut a promo before, and it's like, yo,
Me neither.
yeah, you wanted the Samoans for real. Like that's the type of energy.
I made that note. I was like, you could hear the NOYE in his voice for sure.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. That's my first thought. I was like, this is decent. Like you
Can you imagine him in the Bloodline?
Man, that'd be dope. I was thinking that too. I was like, I could picture you in the Bloodline. You kind of like the Anoa'is favor each other very much. Like, so you kind of got that that Roman Reigns. I can see that y'all are related a lot. I think they're like first cousins, I believe. So something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, there was a whole lot of menace in that promo.
Yeah, man. I didn't know. I didn't realize Yokozuna was that short though.
I thought the same thing. I wasn't sure if
he's shorter
Michael
than Doc
Hayes
Hendricks.
was tall. Yeah, I guess he's pretty tall too. But yeah, Yoko. I mean, he's probably like 6'1", maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I didn't really. The Doc should have done the deal where he like spreads his legs to make himself shorter or something. But
yeah. Like you're not supposed to appear taller than the talent. I thought that was the rule.
maybe this is what set it off. Yeah, that goddamn Michael.
I mean,
PSAs.
none of the interviewers today are even close. Like
Kayla's a good 4'11".
Right.
On a good day. But yeah, so Yoko, the whole storyline here is that Yoko, he was with Camp Cornette, which is obviously it was Jim Cornette heading it, and then Owen Hart and British Bulldog were a part of it. They had a match on Raw where Yoko, I guess, lost, and Jim Cornette was just berating him. He was like basically saying it's his fault, and then Yoko was like, "Fuck you, buddy." So he basically just destroyed everybody, and now we have this match coming up next. So. But yeah, I just want to shout out Yoko and his promo ability because, like you, I'd never heard him talk. So, but he's going against British Bulldog here. Yokozuna is, and honestly, I saw this match on paper, and just knowing where Yoko was in this point of his career, because he's like, oh, Vince, a commentary said he was 650 pounds, which could be true. I mean, he was definitely huge. And he's towards the end of his run, I believe, maybe another year or so. But I thought this match was actually decently solid and kind of fast-paced, weirdly. I don't know. What you guys think about this?
Yoko could move, though, for a 600
He could.
pounder.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I know he was hurt.
Man, like,
I know he was hurt. But he was decent. Like, I don't watch many Yokozuna matches. Because I ain't gonna lie, the character never really interested me. And I didn't get interested in Yokozuna until I found out he was related to The Rock and all those guys. So it's been really like recent that I've started to care about Yokozuna. And then I found out he like lived in Compton or something too. So it's like
Really?
he'd be around black people a lot. That's why yeah.
yeah, I could kind of see, where they wanted to like push him as one of the top guys. Like he had that presence to him. And it's like I saw like a little bit of like how like where Umaga got his like move set and everything, because a lot of it you could tell was modeled after this. And cleanest Samoan drop probably I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like that was fluid as hell. I loved it. But him and Bulldog like had some pretty solid chemistry too. I think this was like pretty much getting towards the tail end of his run.
Bulldog, yeah, for sure. Yeah, because he's I've been watching this era chronologically, and Bulldog has had some stinkers in this era. So I did not have high expectations going into this match, especially where because Yoko has been in a bunch of tags for the past year or two because of his weight. So I was like, man, is he gonna have the cardio to have a full-on match, a singles match? And it wasn't too long, but with the time that they had, I mean, it was pretty like Yoko like beelines it to the ring, gets in there, they start going at it. And I mean, there weren't like rest holds really or anything. It was pretty much a sprint, this match was. And I said the same thing too. Yoko has his presence to him. He has like a charisma about him beyond his mic work. He just has that presence about him that it's like you can't look away. Bonsai goes for the bonsai drop on Bulldog, but Cornette, who's out there with Bulldog, he pulls Bulldog out. A lot of the match is Bulldog trying to knock Yoko down with like top rope axe handles, and all that stuff, but he can't knock him down, gets hit with a Samoan drop, which I also noted because it was just beautiful. It was just so smooth, Yoko. I mean, a man that big should not move that fast. It's crazy. Even all his bumping was good too. Like, he was just so good. Yep. But the finish comes. The finish is a DQ because Jim Cornette gets in there with his tennis racket, smashes Yoko in the back with it. You guys got a problem with the tennis racket?
That was the most DQ I've ever seen in my life. Cause like this dude, it looked like he just came up with a ping pong paddle and clapped him on the side of his shoulder. Like, I wouldn't even call for the bell on that. Like, get your punk ass out the ring.
What do you guys think that racket is made out? It was almost like it was just the case, like it wasn't an actual racket,
right?
Nah,
or like
cardboard
like,
or
something.
You barely heard the sound it made.
Yeah, it was. It's like when you take like a pool noodle and slap somebody with it. Like that's what it sounded like. So it's like on Yokozuna, you probably didn't even feel it, but gets DQ'd, and Yoko's like, he's pissed, obviously. He backs Jim Cornette in the corner, and then in comes Vader, wearing a jacket for some reason. I don't know. They're really humanizing Vader here.
First, this man had on a jacket and a University of Buffalo's t-shirt on. Oh, Colorado. I'm sorry, Colorado Buffaloes. But that was the most random thing I ever seen in regards to Vader. Like, I don't know what was going on here.
Yeah, it's because Vader just debuted at the Royal Rumble the previous month, and immediately in a feud with Yokozuna. Which, do you guys think that was a mistake? Because when you see Vader next to Yokozuna, Vader looks fucking tiny.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I think they should have. Not someone said it was a mistake. It's just too early. Like,
yeah,
Vader had just come in, and it's like, you know, I think they kind of weren't sure where they were going to go with Yoko just yet. But it's like you're kind of stuck in a spot because I think they made a match for them at Mania that year, and it's like
it was like
now who you supposed to put? Because because it's like putting the two of them together. It's like, who do you really put over in that situation? Because you just brought Vader in, and he had been such a big name over in Japan. He was a monster over there. Yoko's already been billed as a monster for the last couple years, so it's like now you put yourself in a tight spot.
I wonder if maybe they're like trying to cut their losses with Yoko's, not cut their losses, but like really like, because I know he goes to rehab at some point to like lose weight. I don't know if this is after this or if he already like went and failed. It's also Googleable, but maybe they're like, hey, let's have Vader beat Yoko. It'll make Vader look like a monster, and then we'll go from there. But I guess if it was a 6-man, maybe they just didn't have faith in it or whatever. But
so from Wikipedia, the feud took a painful turn a couple weeks later on April 8th when Vader jumped on Yokozuna's leg, kayfabe breaking it. The splash was shown on television as a leg break. In reality, it was performed to allow Yokozuna to take some time off to lose weight. However, instead of a stretcher, a real forklift had to be brought out to carry Yokozuna.
I mean, I guess, right? I mean, how much can a stretcher possibly hold, you know?
Yeah. And another thing, Riq, Vader in real life played football for the University of Colorado, which explains that.
Okay. That makes perfect sense then.
Sure. I'm sure it does. But Vader comes out here and they do this. They handcuff Yoko to the top rope. They beat Vader and Bulldog beat on Yokozuna in the corner. Jim Cornette gets a few more racket shots on him. Did those devastating tennis racket shots on Yoko. And backstage, like all the agents and stuff come back to separate it. It's kind of a decent angle, I thought, but seems like it didn't really have a conclusion, so who cares, I guess. And
but I mean, like, did Yoko just really not have no friends backstage? Because
guess not.
He had all the homies 2 years prior when Undertaker was getting jumped.
Right.
Right.
Like, what happened?
Man,
like, damn.
That's no Jeff Jarrett, no who else was there? Fucking Kama, maybe. Nobody's there to help him out. But my only note here was that Vader couldn't decide if he wanted to have the mask on or not because it got knocked off like 2 or 3 times. He was like, no, I'll put this back on. Nah, never mind. It was.
I remember like I turned my head for 2 seconds. I looked back. He got the mask off. I'm like, what, he just decided he got hot, sweaty. Like, what's going on? You only been out here for like 2 minutes.
It was the leather, man. Yeah. It was the leather.
Well, speaking of leather, we got Goldust backstage with Marlena in the AOL chat room. I guess this was, and Goldust. So there's this man.
Dated. Good lord.
Oh man.
So what was this? So I guess you could go in an AOL chat room and talk to Goldust. Is that what this was?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like, because he just caressing that dude that was doing all the typing on the computer.
Dude.
And just talking to him all
This
in
was
his ears.
not
So I'm
okay.
Man.
He was
odd.
typing on the laptop, and Goldust had his arm around him.
Yeah. but can we talk about the fact that these motherfuckers kept putting up an ad for a hotline where the number was not in service. Like 3 times they put that thing up, and it literally said
I mean,
the
it's the
number
original broadcast.
is no longer working.
That's all that was. Like,
It was in service back then.
yeah.
But now it's not. So if you call that now, you're not going to get Goldust, probably.
That's
It
true.
was a 1-900 number. You might get a crazy bill too. So I wouldn't do it.
Well, they said that. They said they it was like $1.30 or something like that per minute.
Ooh,
Something.
That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
The guy. So Goldust is in the middle of a feud with Razor Ramon at this point, and I guess on Raw they're gonna face each other for the IC title, and Goldust is basically here hyping that up, and he says that he's oozing at the thought of facing Razor Ramon tomorrow. Thoughts?
Oozing where?
You know where he's oozing. Because he oozes machismo, you see, Razor Ramon. But Goldust also oozes.
Oh man.
So, anyways.
That's aggressive. That's highly aggressive for no reason at all.
So I let the after this event ended, I let the other In Your House After This autoplay. Took place in my hometown, Omaha, Nebraska, and there's a sign in the crowd that says "Gay Dust" on it. So a lot of that was acceptable back then.
Yeah, it was. I mean, other companies like ECW, especially in this point, like when they would like trash on WWF, where, oh, you got that gay shit over there with Goldust. Like it was very common. So,
listen, it's hard to be shocked by anything that comes out of the mouth of a man who was literally willing to get breast implants to make his character go.
he committed to it. He committed to it, and it was working because it was creating a lot of buzz. You know, maybe good or bad, but it was kind of kicking off the Attitude Era a little early, in some senses. But
most definitely.
So after that, we got the match that I was definitely most looking forward to when turning this show on. We got Owen Hart versus Shawn Michaels. Just saying that is just... I didn't even really know these guys faced each other, much less in a pay-per-view singles match. So, and not to mention the stakes here, because Shawn just won the Rumble. And the stakes here are the Rumble, or the Mania main event. So if Owen Hart were to win, he would go on to challenge for the WWF title. And that just led me to think, like, what would happen if Owen did win this? Like, how do you think that would have changed the course of history if Owen were to have won this?
He'd probably still be alive.
We would have had a better Iron Man match.
Yeah, that's unfortunately true, yeah. It's
and it would have made more sense because Shawn and Bret having an Iron Man match in the first place, nothing about that really hit.
No.
Like in terms of building it. Like what about it said that, hey, they need to settle this in 60 minutes for who can get the most falls?
Yeah.
Man, that was the first time they ever did that at Mania. That's literally the only criteria that they needed to justify that.
Yeah.
That's all that was. Great match.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I'm definitely leaning towards TC when it comes to who the GOAT is. Because the fact that my dude was doing his entrance, ran up in there, dropped him, threw him over the ropes and said, get your ass out and let me finish my entrance. And they let the music run. They didn't cut it or nothing like that.
No.
And put the lights back on him, everything like that. That's cold. That's cold as hell.
Owen Hart kind of looked like a jabroni through a lot of this match. It kicked in eventually, but because like you said, Shawn, so he makes his entrance, and obviously WrestleMania 12, I think, is when he makes the dramatic, zip line entrance into the arena, and they kind of, it's almost like they're leading up to it with this one because he appears on top of the house, like the In Your House deal on the stage, and it's pyro on the house. He does like a George of the Jungle bullshit off of it, just swings from the roof of the house onto the ground, and does his Shawn Michaels thing, gets in the ring, and like you said, Owen's in there, he just shit cans him over the top rope. Music doesn't stop, he keeps dancing, he does his pose. Owen's just like, hey man, I wish you wouldn't have done that, but he just lets him do his entrance, I guess. But yeah, awesome match. I mean, Owen Hart and Shawn Michaels, you can't really go wrong here. We are kind of fresh off of Shawn getting beat up by 20 sailors in a nightclub or whatever the hell it was, where he got a concussion. He dealing with all the concussion, the post-concussion syndrome. They did the little angle on Raw where he just collapsed in the middle of the ring. And this was a match on Raw. It was Owen Hart versus Shawn on Raw, but the match got cut because he collapsed. And so that's kind of the story here, is Owen's kind of taking responsibility for it, and he says he's going to do it again. So that's a lot of the story here. But yeah, what were your guys' thoughts on this match?
I was looking forward to this. When I looked at the card, I was like, ooh, it is right before Mania. This is like,
yeah.
And Vince has kind of been booking like this for a while. Like, he'll give like the Rumble winner that good ass warm up right before Mania, where you think they might lose and then they don't. So that was fun. Another Jim Cornette appearance. So he just whooped the man's ass the segment before this, and is back out here again, just like hardest working man in the business in 1996. Clearly,
it's cutting the check, man.
But yeah, these two guys go at it pretty equal in terms of athleticism. Shawn, like in the beginning, Shawn just like at the entrance deal with Owen, like that just continues because the match gets underway and Shawn's baseball slides under Owen. And he just goes outside and high fives the crowd in the front row, and then Owen tries to do the same thing, but Shawn just cross bodies onto him to the outside. Does like he like rides him like a surfboard in the middle of the ring at some point. So Owen's getting kind of shit on here in the beginning, but Owen eventually gets the advantage a little bit. Got some suplexes, a little camel clutch action, missile drop kick from the top rope, blocks in the sharpshooter, which is an omen for a lot of Shawn's career after this. But Owen eventually he hits an enziguri on the Shawn, knocks him to the outside, and that was allegedly like what made Shawn collapse on Raw. So that was a little callback to that. But this time Shawn does not collapse in the middle of the ring. He fights back. The flying forearm, the elbow from the top, all of the classic Shawn stuff. Misses the sweet chin music, and then Owen goes for another enziguri, but he misses, and then Shawn retorts with the sweet chin music and gets the win. So I like the finish. It's really smooth, and yeah, Shawn gets the win, and it's off to Mania. So, any other thoughts on this one?
I want to watch it again.
I mean, that's yeah, because that's everything you expect from two guys like that. You know, I mean, Owen had his case for, on his best day, rivaling Bret's best. So, I mean, for him and Shawn at that point in time, when he was still getting hotter, like, this was like, I hadn't known that the two of them had that match together, like he said, just before Mania, where he was about to face Bret. So, I mean, that's what you'd expect to see when those two names are together.
Yeah. For sure. Would either of you guys let your kid go into the ring with Shawn Michaels in 1996 and celebrate?
In 96, hell no.
Never.
02? Fine.
Perhaps. Yeah.
But 96.
02 is too soon. No. 06.
You think?
At the latest. Absolute latest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some little girl was went into the ring and Shawn did his pose with her on his shoulders, and I don't know if it was a relative or something, but that's no, not for me, man.
Yeah, man.
But we got Todd Pettengill here. He because they're setting up for the main event, which is a steel cage match, which is just hilarious. They can't just lower a cage at this point. They have to literally
I'm about to
just
say,
look out the fucking walls to the
piece
ring.
by piece, setting this shit up.
But to vamp a little bit before then, we got Todd Pettengill. He introduces the acting president of the WWF, Rowdy Roddy Piper. And so this is after... So Gorilla Monsoon was the previous president, but Vader came and just rocked his world. He attacked him on Raw, gave him a Vader bomb, and now Gorilla's out of the picture. So Roddy is the acting president, and... Roddy, first of all, I think Roddy's super entertaining. I love this whole thing. I did think it was a bit weird that he was, because he's like, I'm not politically correct. I'll say what's on my mind. I think Michael Jackson did it. It's like, why is that the...
I got an F for that promo. We don't slander Michael Jackson around here and get props from me. It just don't happen.
And 96, I'm like, this was going on in 96?
Yeah.
I thought it was later than that.
I didn't do my Michael Jackson research. Maybe I should have, but apparently it was. Unless he's just foreshadowing, which maybe Roddy was part of it. I don't know. But.
Yeah, this was a thing for a good 10 years, from the 90s into the early 2000s.
Right. Piper's here basically to officially announce the WWF title match at WrestleMania, Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels, and he also announces that it's going to be Vader versus Yokozuna at WrestleMania, which I guess gets modified. But this brings Jim Cornette out. And Jim Cornette and Roddy Piper going at it on the mic was a sight to see. It was definitely, because you don't get a lot of good promos in this era. But these two going at it was pretty entertaining. Roddy, at one point, says something about how Vader's mask is a jock strap. I don't know. There were some good lines in here, but anything else stick out to you in this little segment here?
Nah, by the third time I seen
Roddy.
Yeah. By the third time I seen Jim Cornette, I was out of it. Yeah, we got Michael Jackson slander.
Brand about him.
Another Jim Cornette appearance. I was out of it.
And there was something off brand about him showing up with a black dude to just kind of back him up or something. Like it was just something off brand about it for Jim.
That's his lawyer, Clarence Mason.
Oh man,
not Johnny Cochran. It's Clarence Mason is with him. And wasn't Clarence Mason an original Nation of Domination member? Or did I make that up? It was like a weird period in the beginning where Crush was in it, and two guys that were not in the Nation were Bret Hart and Diesel. They're in the main event here for the WWF title. Steel cage match. Bret Hart defending against Diesel here. And so this is, I think, their third pay-per-view title match. They had a Royal Rumble and a Survivor Series match the previous year. And they were both really some of Diesel's best matches. Kevin Nash's best matches in his career were against Bret Hart. And this was another pretty good one. They had the classic blue cage, which that was my main takeaway here is everything about this cage looked brutal. Getting whipped into the corner, you can hear it rattle like a fucking gunshot. Mm-hmm. It looked brutal. But by the way, the cage is as tall as Diesel is. He's literally in the corner, has his hands resting on the top of the cage. So
yeah, those are small ass cage, man.
Yeah,
I don't think they got tall cages until around Hell in a Cell time.
Yeah. And even then, in hindsight, looking at it, if you see it compared to what the cage look like now, that was short.
Yeah.
Right.
Remember that cage with Vince and Stone Cold St. Valentine's Day Massacre? That was a small ass cage.
Oh man. Yeah.
I think was that not the same one, just black?
Yeah. It was the same exact cage.
I think it was. Yeah. They need to bring that back. I think the current steel cage is just too clean looking.
That's why they made it red.
I was about to say, I would feel better about it if they weren't giving it a paint job every year.
Yeah.
I've never been cool with that.
Well, it's like hell, you see. Red.
It's supposed to be, but I mean, that gimmick was only supposed to be for 1 year.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? After that, get it up out of here. It didn't make no sense.
Yeah.
But now, you did say that too, and I was going to mention that too. Nobody hits a turnbuckle harder than Bret Hart. Dude is he's really trying to commit suicide when he hits that corner.
Stirred him.
It's insane. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know how his sternum just crack into a million pieces every time he takes that bump into the corner. Is
That's what I'm saying. You want
insane.
to get mad at Goldberg when he was caving his own chest in.
He wrestled 2 weeks after Goldberg kicked him, by the way.
He did. He did. But this match, a lot of it is kind of based on the escape the ring stipulation. So a lot of this match is either Diesel like trying to crawl out or Bret trying to climb over. What do you guys think of that stipulation in cage matches? Like, if you escape the cage, you win.
I didn't know the door was a gimmick back then. Like, I thought the door thing was.
I didn't know that either.
They introduced in like the ruthless aggression era, because I don't think they did it like that in the Attitude Era. Like, you always had to climb over the cage, which is honestly the proper way to do a cage match. So
that's right. Yeah, like one or the other. I think climbing over makes more sense. Like that, having that doorway is just like. It's only something mainly that the heels do anyway. So
right.
I didn't see the point of it.
Yeah, because I like it. Yeah, I agree. Like, it should only, you can escape, but only over the top, because that's like how desperate you are to escape the situation. It's that you'll climb this big ass, in theory, this big ass cage to win the match. But the door was weird. It's not like Diesel couldn't climb it, because he ended up climbing it pretty fast. But that's towards the end. But the match itself was pretty good. I mean, it was kind of what we described. It's people getting whipped into not really the cage. It was more just like into the corners, but it was almost like, it felt like they were running into the cage because you could just hear the rattling, and it was pretty brutal. Yeah, Diesel doing his big man offense, Bret attacking the leg of Diesel is kind of what you expect from these two. I think the drama of like Bret, you would always try to escape, but Diesel would just, because he's tall, he just reach up basically to the top, and then Diesel trying to escape through the door, like trying to crawl through it. So there was good drama in this match, I thought. But Diesel at one point resorts to low blowing Bret off the top to get him to not escape. And then, but Bret fights back. Bret locks in the sharpshooter on the Diesel, or Diesel kicks it off. And then Diesel tries to crawl to the door, but he's stopped by a purple glove. A mysterious purple glove from under the ring busts through the canvas, which I don't know if we've ever seen this at this point.
Yeah, I think that was the first time.
One of the first times for sure.
At least.
It's The Undertaker. Because Undertaker said at the Royal Rumble that it would be a cold day in hell before Diesel would be WWE or WWF champion. And he just dragged him to hell, I guess. Pulled him into the ring. Lots of smoke comes out. Mm-hmm. And my question is, wouldn't Diesel technically win this match?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he's still in the ring, technically.
I guess he couldn't see his feet touching the floor, I guess.
Nah, you know what? I think he did. I think he technically did, because JBL did that same shit in 05.
Mm-hmm.
But he ended up crawling out from under the ring, though. That's the thing. That's the difference. Diesel never popped back up again.
Well, he did, but in the ring.
Right.
But it's like...
But Bret got out the ring first. Like, the JBL thing, he ended up crawling under the ring outside of it. Technically, JBL won that match the right way.
That's a good point.
He ended up outside of the ring before the Big Show did. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Diesel we don't see him show back up outside of the ring. I mean, at some point, obviously we do. But Bret Hart, we see him outside of the confines of the ring. In real time, he wins. That's how that goes.
I think what it is, JBL didn't get sent to hell. So JBL only touched the floor. Diesel got brought all the way to hell, which is not the floor. So I think that's what kind of makes it different in a sense, but we could review the tape. But as Diesel is getting who knows what done to him under the ring, Bret climbs over the top, touches the floor, and retains his title. And Diesel comes back. He climbed, like you guys said, he climbs back up through the hole into the ring. And only his pants are torn, which is a little suspicious, I think. But don't know what the Undertaker's doing to him. But
hold on a minute, player. What do you mean when you say you're going one-on-one with the Undertaker?
But Diesel or Taker's in the ring, chases him off. Diesel just hops in like 2 steps over the cage, gets the hell out of there. And then the show basically ends with Taker on top of the cage, pointing at Diesel. And cool visual to end the show. And sets up Diesel versus Undertaker at WrestleMania. And then we got Bret versus Shawn set up at WrestleMania. So I guess they didn't say Shawn versus Bret earlier, but Roddy said that Shawn would be in the main event. But now we got that solidified here. And anything can happen in the World Wrestling Federation, as they say, right?
Yes. I don't remember the last time they said that.
It's a drinking game.
that back.
That's a drinking game.
They made sure to say it here.
But any other thoughts on this one, guys?
No, it was a solid little tune-up before Mania. Vince knew how to set up these matches really well. Like, I think if any booker needs to go back and watch like old stuff and see how feuds and storylines and matches were set up like months ahead of time. Like, I'm watching what was it, Royal Rumble 95, I think it was, and seeing how they just seamlessly set up Lawrence Taylor versus Bam Bam Bigelow so easily. From a simple interaction. Lawrence Taylor's there, invited by a friend. I think it was Kevin Nash. Diesel invited him, and he just gets into it with Bam Bam, whose partners turn on him. They lose the tag titles, like stuff like that. So this was another way. Like, Taker comes out. You already set the tone for Taker and Diesel at Mania. I mean, not Mania, Rumble. They got into it then at the Rumble. Taker, I think it was Taker and Bret, and then Diesel cost him. Diesel cost Taker the belt. So like, you already had that beef sustained. Like, Taker's not gonna forget. So I just watched that Rumble like a couple weeks ago. So it was just fresh in my mind. Like, all right, when does Taker show up? And here he goes. So I didn't know that's how they did it though. So it was very interesting to see. I was like, oh, this is. Just like y'all, I was like, this is one of those first times they did this gimmick too, I think. So.
Yeah, and like, I know a lot of people like to, give Bret shit and everything like that. He's one of the biggest complainers I've ever seen in my life in this business, but I can't never say the dude didn't earn his in ring, because I mean, with a guy like Diesel that people had questions about, being, the way his movement was, being a bigger guy, and, Bret being able to kind of hide those deficiencies in the ring and still get a good match out of him. It's like, few people are proficient in doing that, but Bret was damn sure one of them. It's like just watching the dude just chop down a tree for, what was it, like 20 minutes or so? Like, not a lot of people can make that shit.
Every part of his body the whole match, which is intelligent. Like, Bret Hart psychologically is one of the best, because, like, of course you do that. This guy's 7 feet tall. Just break him down to size. Can't climb out the ring if your back and legs don't work.
It's very true, but you can crawl out unless Undertaker stops you, I guess. But yeah, Bret, I mean, he just has intent behind everything he does. Like we were talking about with the spot when he runs into the corner, like every bump, every strike, every move he does just feels like he's actually trying to hurt the guy, which is a lost art, I think. I would compare him, like Benoit and Eddie were the same thing. Like everything they did felt like it had like purpose to it. And Bret was one of those guys too, and Kurt too. Yeah. So, but yeah, and his match, like his Royal Rumble match with Diesel, I think it was 95, is probably my favorite Kevin Nash match of all time. It was just incredible. But Diesel will be off to different pastures here in a few months, but gotta put over old Taker on his way out. But yeah, pretty good show, I thought. Oh, if you guys had to grade this from S to F, S obviously being the best, what would you guys give it?
Probably give it like a B or B minus. Like,
I was thinking B too.
So.
Yeah, a B plus.
Yeah, it's at this point in '96 probably the best. Out of like all the WCW and ECW and WWF, probably the best show so far, even though it's still very early. But it was definitely better than the Rumble, I thought. Even though it was a shorter show, I think every like minute for minute, I thought everything was pretty entertaining. There weren't really any duds. I don't think the Crybaby stuff was stupid, but like the match was fine. Like Razor and X-Pac, two good talents, and even Duke the Dumpster Josie showed up. He showed out. So, Yeah,
we talked last week when we recapped the Rumble about just like keeping it simple,
right.
you know, and it's like that's all this was. Like, it's not a long show. You keep it, what was it, like five matches on this card, real simple, nothing crazy, nothing over the top, just progressing storylines like you need to and moving on. That's it.
I meant to ask you this earlier because you did that theme song bracket on your show a while ago. Was Owen Hart's theme song on that? Because it should have been if it wasn't.
I don't think it
was not, but we can definitely do redetermination.
Oh my god!
If you bring it back, if there's a round 2, he needs to be on that.
There's been a round 2.
He has an agenda. He has an agenda to get 3-6 Mafia for Mark Henry. What is it, in the finals at least?
To win. I have an agenda for that to win.
To win, okay.
Well, if people want to listen to that, where can they find you guys on all the socials and all the podcast platforms and stuff?
At YK Wrestling, everywhere, social, YKWrestling.com. I have some fact checks real quick, just some things we talked about on this episode. Yes, Clarence Mason was the original member of the Nation of Domination with Farouk, original founding member. And Isaac Yankem still existed during this time. He wrestled in a dark match after this show.
They had a lot of dark matches. I looked at the card. There was a lot of dark matches. For Undertaker, Gold Dust. The dark matches might maybe even been as good as the actual card. But
Ahmed Johnson was on this card.
Right, yeah, I remember that.
Are you guys big Ahmed Johnson guys?
This is a perfect segue because I was watching some shoot interviews at work this past week. I came across one. I think it was Godfather talked about how Farouk didn't like Ahmed Johnson, and then Godfather just in passing mentioned that D'Lo whooped his ass. And I listened to a Mark Henry interview, and Mark Henry confirmed the same story about D'Lo and Ahmed Johnson getting into it because of Farouk. So I went and found the D'Lo interview where he told the story, and he talked about how Ahmed Johnson was just getting a little too big for his britches backstage. Like, he had the title match versus Taker, some pay-per-view, and he pulls like was it Gerald Briscoe to the side. He was like, I mean, I don't know about this, Jerry. I don't know. And he's just like, no, Taker's a good dude. It's gonna be a good match. It's gonna be fine. And Ahmed Johnson's like, no, I don't know about being champion. I don't know if I can handle it. Like, bro, you're not gonna win this championship. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Should he have been though? Should he have been?
No, hell no.
Oh,
nah.
I mean, he was over, but he fucking sucked. Like, and that's why Farouk didn't like him, because he ended up putting Farouk out of action for like a year because he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. So Farouk held on to that and whooped his ass the first time they met again.
There was definitely a time where they was high on, like, you know what, Ahmed might be that first that we have to put it on him, and then the stuff like this started happening. You know, Farouk was just one of that got hurt, and you know, that combined with his little hesitation and stuff like that, it's like, all right, nah, we're just gonna pass on you. And you're just going to go wherever we fit you.
I also listened to Jim Ross talk about when he had to fire Ahmed Johnson, too.
How'd that go?
I see, I wasn't paying that much attention to it because, you know, Jim Ross be capped sometimes. But apparently, Godfather and, he was Kama back then, and D'Lo were there when it happened, so. And then we don't see Ahmed Johnson. Oh, yeah, Ahmed Johnson also, Mark Henry talked about how he tried to spike his drink, and then he called him outside and then left him on the side of the road because he tried to spike his drink.
This Ahmed Johnson is a menace. I had no idea. This big oily bastard.
This dude.
4 interviews are only about 20 minutes long. I learned a lot about Ahmed Johnson.
That could be its own podcast episode in itself, Ahmed Johnson, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's crazy.
Just thinking of him at oily with his 5 knee pads on in Jim Ross's office, like that can't be a
tricep implant.
He had a tricep, man. Okay, we're gonna need to do Ahmed Johnson.
Go look at pictures of Ahmed Johnson's triceps and tell me that wasn't an implant.
Once again, thank you to TC and Riq for joining me on this episode covering In Your House 6. Always a good time with those guys. check them out. Young Kings Wrestling Podcast, YKWrestling.com. Check the description. All their socials in there. Great follows on the Twitters and the Instagrams as well. Follow me at Apron Bump, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, apronbump.com for all my full episodes. And hey, let's grade. I don't know why I'm yelling. Let's grade this show, shall we? Let's pull up the pull it up. All right. So we got our scoreboard here. And you know what? So I was thinking, right? So if you're new to this, by the way, this would help if you watched on YouTube. But I'll talk through it as well. So we basically got a bunch of criteria that we're grading each company on. Now this is WWF versus WCW versus ECW for the year of 1996. And we have a scoreboard here. As of right now, it's WWF 6, WCW with 2, and ECW with 12. What are these scores based off of? Well, we got a tier list, basically where we grade all of the pay-per-views. And the company with the highest average score gets the points here. As of right now, the company with that wins this criteria gets 4 points. However, I'm considering changing this to 6 purely because I think this is the most objective criteria, because I'll pull over to here. Pay-per-view grades. So we're going through each pay-per-view as we cover them and we grade them. So I think this is the most logical, it's still subjective at the end of the day. But I just think ultimately it makes more sense for that to factor more into the total score, because that's kind of I don't know. It just seems more objective to me. Also, I think pay-per-views, because this is based off of the pay-per-view quality, right? And I think that's kind of a culmination of the in-ring, the promos, the characters, the storylines, all of it, right? The mystique that the company has behind it, the momentum. I think everything is taken into account with the quality of the shows. So I feel like that's the most important at the end of the day. So I think I'm going to change this to 6 instead of 4. But we also take into consideration best in-ring, best roster, best out-of-ring stuff. So the gimmicks, the characters, the promos, and all that stuff. So we take all elements into play here. So the question is, how does WWF In Your House 6 change this? So first of all, let's grade the show, shall we? So we got a couple C's and a couple F's so far. So not a very strong start to the year. However, I'm going to give In Your House 6 a B. Solid show. Very good show. We talked about it towards the end of the episode. They didn't do too much. I mean, the Crybaby match was, you could say that was doing too much, but I think everything around the show was, they set up WrestleMania very well. You had some good matches. Shawn versus Owen, Bret versus Diesel was solid. Even the Crybaby match, even Razor versus Kid was pretty good. Bulldog versus Yoko, surprisingly pretty good. So it's even Duke the Dumpster Drozy showed up, man. I mean, I think a B is more than fair. It's not an A. It wasn't an amazing show. It's not a show I'd be like, hey, you got to go watch this. But I think a B is fair. So as of right now, first of all, how does this affect the tier list average? Well, it seems that it has brought WWF in the lead in terms of pay-per-view quality. So this changes to WWF. Best overall average grade. And man, what a turnaround in the scoreboard. So we got WWF with 12. WCW still has 2. And ECW now has 8. So the question now is, what else has changed on here? Best pay-per-view of the year. Well, I guess now that's In Your House 6. But previously it was Royal Rumble. So it's still WWF. So it doesn't really change the score at all. But worst pay-per-view, so that's still the same. Still Super Brawl from WCW. In ring, as of right now, ECW has that locked down. But I think Bret Diesel was good. Sean and Bret becoming major factors in WWF is really going to push them over the edge. Now we're not there yet. Now we're not grading this based on what's going to happen. We're grading this based on what we have covered so far. But I still think WWF might have overtaken ECW in terms of in-ring quality. Because ECW hasn't really had a lot of strong matches. Like a lot of like the Eddies and the Benoits and stuff that ECW did have, they've gone to WCW. So I think WWF has this locked down. Best match, Public Enemy versus Nasty Boys. Did anything on In Your House 6 overtake this? Probably got to give it to Shawn and Owen, right? Even Bret and Diesel, I think, was probably better than that, to be honest. Either way, I think it's WWF. So Shawn Michaels versus Owen Hart. Now this will change. We're still early in the year, but as of right now, best match goes to WWF. So now WCW has 0 points. Now WWF is just dominating at this point, but we've seen how fast things can swing. And I feel like WCW is going to make up for this later in the year when it comes down to their roster, when it comes down to their storylines, because we know what happens in the summer. So they're not out of it, but right now they're pretty dreadful in WCW. Wrestler of the Year, Shawn Michaels still. Worst of the Year, still Hulk Hogan. Best character storyline, Diesel. Diesel and Undertaker. Because before it was just Diesel as like his internal like evolution. But I'm just gonna modify this to Diesel Taker because I think that stuff's really good. But still WWF, so that hasn't changed the score. Worst character, yeah, still Dungeon of Doom. I feel like that is not going to change throughout the year, but we'll see. So there we go. Final score for this week. In 1996, so we got WWF with 18, WCW with 0, and ECW with 4. So WWF, the new generation, putting a stomping on the other companies so far. But we got a long way to go. A long way to go. I mean, how many fucking shows do we got to cover? We got 32 fucking, holy shit. Some of these I'm probably going to combine, but a lot more shows to take into account is what I'm saying here. And but yeah, so that's where we're at. And yeah, with that, I think you've had enough of me today. I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna go let you enjoy your day, and I'm going to go put makeup under my eyes because I look like a sad boy right now. Thank you guys so much for listening. Love you all. Big smooches. I'm hard.
Yeah.
It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing I guess. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing I guess.